I'd like to give you 3 takeaways if you are an active prediction market trader. They're kind of the basics of trading 101 on prediction markets. The first one being read the rules. It's that simple. If you open up a market on Calci, open up any market for us, and we'll show you right where you can find the rules. Because the rules may seem intuitive, but not always. So for example, if you're looking on this market, the rule is that who will win Arizona, which I'm long, by the way. I'm long this market from 71 cents. In fact, I just checked my portfolio at Calci. I'm green across the board. I have no losing positions. So let's see how long that holds. But I'm long this market from 71. I like it for the GOP, that Trump will win Arizona. It's looking good. I'm going to hold on to that position. But rule number 1 is know how it resolves. So what constitutes settlement for a market is determined in the rules, and you could show where the rules exist. In this case, it's when essentially Congress calls the market. But you can see right there, if Donald Trump or another representative of the Republican Party wins Arizona, then the market resolves to yes, outcome must be verified by the Library of Congress. That's a technicality, and some of the rules are a little bit more specific. But if the market is resolved to a yes, if Congress essentially says, passes that Arizona was won by, so in other words, a network calling Arizona tonight, if CNN calls Arizona for Trump or Fox calls it, that won't resolve the market. It has to be resolved formally by Congress. And that's a question of a matter of a day or two. But rule number 1, read the rule. Second rule, if you're placing an order, look at the order book. You can put in market orders. And of course, you can see where you can do that right on the right of the screen. You can put in an order by dollars. At the top, there's a little drop-down arrow. You can put it in by contracts. Or you can also put a limit order, which is not a bad idea in fast markets, and this will be a fast market tonight. Markets will be moving quickly. But if you go over and click on Donald Trump to the left, click on his name, that opens up the order book. And most people never even look at this, and it's a big mistake. You have transparency, which is amazing, in the underlying order book. You know where the buys are, you know where the sells are. You can see where the midpoint is. You can see how the market might be trending. This allows you to be a little bit more strategic in your order placement, to know where the orders are. Maybe you don't want to scalp a cent or two because you see way too many orders sitting 1 or 2 cents below you, and you want to take a market price because you'll come in at the end of that line. So in this case, if I'm going to try to hold out to buy this contract at 77, well, that means I've got to wait for 58,000, another 55,000, and another 81,000. I got to wait for 180,000 contracts to get filled before it gets to me. So it may not be worth it to wait for that 2-cent price differential. I might want to take a market price. So rule number 2, always look at the order book. And number 3 is just a trading tactic. This has been revised by, years ago when we were trading in prediction markets actively. And I forget the name of, and some of my prediction market fellow traders are going to remind me of this, I know. But it was his rule. I think it was, who was this? The rule was always sell at 90. That's a ridiculous rule, to always sell at 90. His point was that there's a lot of uncertainty, and if you buy something, wherever you buy it, and it gets up to 90, take it out because you never know if something might reverse itself and you'll lose your profit. Well, that's a little too cautious. But as a rule, you don't want to wait for a market to settle. So if you buy Arizona, so I'm long GOP for Arizona, long from 70 cents. If it trades up to 80 cents, so that's where it is right now, I'm profitable. If I see that at 96, 97, 98 cents, I'm probably going to take it out. Even though when it reaches that level, it means it's going to resolve probably at $1 unless something crazy happens and the market switches and I get whipsawed. That's not the risk I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about liquidity. If I can sell that position at 98, 99, I have capital I'll be able to deploy in another market. And there'll be a lot of markets to use this evening. So you can wait for the binary option outcome, and you can wait for the market to settle, but there's really no reason to. If you have a good profit, take a profit at 96, 97, 98. It's a good place to go. Let somebody else gets stuck sitting there waiting for that contract to resolve. Could be 2 or 3 days later before you get your money back. In the meantime, you can't deploy it anywhere else. So 3 rules: read the rules, look at the order book, and take a profit somewhere between 95 and 98 and get yourself out of the market and get liquid again so you can get back in.
I mean, I think point number 3 is perhaps the the underrated consideration. Obviously, read the rules is so important, and I think that goes back to an issue that betting market traders had a few years back, right? The platform Metacalculus had a contract out there. Would there be a pandemic before the end of 2023? And so a lot of people piled into it for a pretty specific reason. But the contract resolved no, because the specific terms that were set forth on the definition of what would constitute a pandemic occurring were actually never met. And so that's why you need to look through the details of these, because if the bet, for example, is who will be president and all 3 networks are required to make that call, what if one of the networks doesn't make the call? Then the contract could theoretically be resolved to nothing, right? No, the so-and-so is president, but not all 3 networks agreed. And therefore, the contract is null and void, and you settle out at 0 cents, which would not be fun. So read the rules. But that's that other point, number 3.
Right.
Take profit. Opportunity cost. If you hold on to your position and there are other markets where you can deploy capital, making sure that you can stick out that extra 2 or 3 cents, the juice is probably not worth the squeeze. Take your money when you can get it, when the markets are liquid, and find a new place with more duration to redeploy it.
That's right. That's right. And there will be things to do tonight. You just mentioned something. So let's flip over. Can you pull up the AP market? It's on Calci. It's when will the market get called by AP, Associated Press. It's a good market. I'm long that market. Where am I long from? I have a no on this evening. So I have a no bet that we will not have Associated Press calling the election this evening. That's looking pretty good. I probably have a 10-cent profit on that already. I think you can still buy that around 81 cents. Let's see, where is that market? Did you find it yet?
I have not.
You can search, in the search, you put
There we go.
Oh, you got it? There it is. All right.
When will the AP call the election?
So it's at 83 cents right now. Like I said, I think I bought it in the high 70s, but even a moment ago, you shared some information offline with me in Cambria County in Pennsylvania that there's been some problem at the polls that's likely going to delay Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, as we know, is already struggling. They are hand counting ballots right now by state law. They can't count ballots until election day as of this morning. So even though they had all these ballots come in, they couldn't start counting them until this morning. Pennsylvania 4 years ago was called 4 days later in the 2020 presidential election. The AP declared Joe Biden the winner 4 days after Election Day. So I think it's highly unlikely that they're going to call this election this evening. That looks like a real easy way to, it's a pretty solid trade to buy a no at 83 cents. I'll tell you what else I'm going to do, and I know many other traders are going to do. They're going to watch November 6th very closely. Right now, it's at the midpoint at 50 cents. If you see that start ticking up to 65 or down to 35, that means there's another election delay that's become prominent. That means it's not likely that you're going to get a resolved election by AP tomorrow either. And that could be a good trend following bet, more or less, if you see the market move that quickly, because what you'll have this evening is people like myself watching DDHQ and watching the needle on the New York Times and looking at swing state counties and bellwether counties. I mentioned last week that if you're, we'll be watching Indiana results. We'll be looking at Clark and Floyd counties in Indiana as early indicators of how this election might go on a broader basis. In Kentucky, we'll be looking at Boone, Campbell, and Kenton counties. Those are also bellwether counties we're looking at. Also elsewhere in Indiana, there's Greene and Davies counties. These are early indicators that a lot of traders keep an eye on. They're going to be trading all night. So it's one of the things you want to do is keep some powder on the sidelines if you're in these markets. And trend following is often an indicator of something happening. Often it's Steve Kornacki at the whiteboard, moving the magic board and calling some early results in. And that tends to move the market too pretty quickly. So it'll be a fast market. You have to be really careful. Price orders are going to be important this evening. But this is a market to take a good look at. It is highly unlikely AP is going to call this election tonight. Looking at AP, because that's in the rules. If you look at the rules, it says specifically that it has to be AP. And looking on AP's website, they say only when AP is fully confident a race has been won, defined most simply as the moment the trailing candidates no longer have a path to victory, will we make a call. They're very safe. They're not like the networks. They're not like Fox or MSNBC or CNN that's going to call a state early, let alone the election. Also, keep in mind that AP did not even call the closely contested 2000 race between Bush and Gore. They didn't call it at all because there was so much element of doubt in Florida. So AP calling the election this evening, highly unlikely, and then look till tomorrow, and that might be a good bet to take as well based on how things go this evening.
This to me is the more interesting opportunities on the board tonight, just because of how the election's structured. The delays out in Cambria County, Pennsylvania, extend the voting until 10 p.m. Eastern tonight. And I think that's, we think about the structure of this. One of the questions that I've heard a lot, maybe even in the last few minutes here, is why does counting the vote take so long?
Yeah.
There are different rules
your Italian
across
friends,
every single state.
Your Italian friends were just asking that question. I saw that.
They were. And like you think about just 3 states, for example, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Florida. You're allowed to mail in your ballots to all 3 places early. Florida, when they get them, they open them, they process them, and the votes are tabulated. In Arizona, they open them. They're not allowed to process them until election day. So they get them all in a nice stack in front of the machines ready to go, chain of custody, supply, guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. In Pennsylvania, they can't even start to open up the envelopes until election day morning. So if you think about delayed voting out in Pennsylvania, and this is a state that already takes a little while to process all the information, it's probably going to be a day or so, tomorrow at the earliest. Jeff, I'm with you. I look at this contract here. Will this market be resolved today? We're actually seeing it come in a little bit more. We talked about it being an 83-cent trade earlier. It's now the no is now 94. Oh, okay. So it's moving here right now.
Talk about maybe we have some listeners who are trading it right now because that's a pretty fast move. Now, so at 94, when this thing hits 97, I'm out. I'm not going to sit around and wait for that to resolve. I'll take that cash and sit on the sidelines so we can do other things. I'll mention some other markets worth looking at right now. This gets a little bit more speculative, also a little bit more fun. If you look at the popular vote market right now, and that's the margin of vote in the popular vote. I don't mind sharing my position. We'll see how this plays out, but I have 2 tranches of Harris. If you open up more markets there, you'll see all the different tranches that are available. I bought Harris 0 to 1 and 1 to 2. So I paid a quarter for it. So essentially it'll have a 4 to 1 payout if she wins the popular vote from 0 to 2 cents. Based on all the polling, I think that's a highly probable outcome, but it's a coin flip election, as Nate Silver so eloquently put it this morning. He did 80,000 Monte Carlo simulations, ran 80,000 simulations and came out to a 50-50 tie, essentially. It was 50.12 versus 49.84 or something like that. But I happen to like this particular, there it is right there. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah. That's pretty amazing, by the way, isn't it? That this thing is so tight. And it's one of the reasons that, the sheer outcome, that's why trend following, because if you want to be a gambler and just bet a coin toss, but that's not what the more experienced prediction market traders are doing. We'll look at the trends. Right now I have no interest in the Harris-Trump 50-50 bet because it's a coin toss and don't feel like there's any value, any EV in that particular bet. It's just pure speculation. But as results start coming in, and if we see certain things occur, and as we see voting trends in Pennsylvania, then you start looking at that market. If you see Harris trading at 70 cents on a yes in that market, it looks like Pennsylvania might be trending her way, and Pennsylvania is going to be a big state. So all eyes are going to be on Pennsylvania for sure. But right now we have Trump 58 to 42. You know, again, not representative of what the odds appear to be based on polling. That makes Harris a valued play, but you don't have enough opportunities to play this for you to recognize that divergence in the spread. So it's hard to call it a value play. I think the better play is to watch early votes come in and then grab a trending market. And that's what a lot of traders are going to be doing. I don't mind sharing some more as long as I said that I've got Harris with the popular vote. There is somewhere on Calci, there's it's a hybrid vote. Who will win the popular vote and who will win the electoral vote? I took Trump winning the electoral vote and Harris winning the popular vote. I think I bought that at 28 cents. I think it's around 31 cents right now. Where is it? Where's that trade? Trump wins. Oh, it's 30. All right. So I'm doing better on that right now. So I am long that second tranche right now, which is currently at 37 cents. I'm long from 28, I believe. And, there'll be a lot of interesting trades like this to watch. Senate races too. And I know that's something you're following carefully. I know you are a big fan of, down ticket races. So let's talk about some of the Senate races and what you like there, Chris.
I'm very interested in Montana here because the Montana polls in recent days have been coming out more and more in favor of Jon Tester. Sometimes you have to roll the dice, as Dave Chappelle might say. Sometimes you got a race chip. In this case, Tester in the polls is ahead by 2 or 3 points. And there's something really interesting about the Montana race here. Tim Sheehy is not a native Montanan. He's a transplant, right, whereas Jon Tester is. And one of the things about Montana politics is they very much for people who are actually Montanans. It's one of the reasons why Tester's been able to stay on the ballot as a Democrat and hold his seat for as long as he has. He's a Montanan's Montanan, if you will.
And there's, like there's not a lot of Montanans. One of the things I got a kick out of is looking at the early ballots cast across all 50 states. The lowest of early ballots cast were in Montana for the obvious reason. There's not going to be long lines at the voting booth today. So they don't have to cast their ballots early. But to your point, that's a very, very that's a close race. I know Republicans are counting on that. That's being factored as a Sheehy win as one of the reasons why the GOP is likely to take the Senate. I am long GOP winning the Senate. I'm about to pull the trigger on the Dems winning the House. I haven't done that yet, but you're right. That is one of the key races that's going to determine that outcome. What about Ohio? Have you been looking at that's Bernie? That's Moreno versus Brown in Ohio.
I have been watching this race. Moreno looks like he actually has a decent shot of taking it from Sherrod Brown. And you'd think that in any other year, Sherrod Brown would have a pretty good shot at defending his seat, given the demographics and overall his popularity still. He has strong favorability ratings within Ohio. Right. Nevertheless, the market is leaning very heavily into Moreno. But this could be one of those situations where you could maybe have your cake and eat it too, right? There is a world in which you'll see, say, Tester retain his Senate seat, but Republicans go on to take the Senate itself. Tester winning the Senate seat would cause a compression in the Senate odds, perhaps, for the macro level, right? Who's going to be in charge moving forward? And I think that may be the tradable event. So if there's any of these, and this is perhaps a strategy for tonight, if you're making your way through an election night, folks, and you start to see Senate seats that were penciled in as red, they stay blue. You probably get a chance to fade any compression in GOP winning Senate odds, right? And if you see that the GOP odds of winning the Senate start to go down, that's a buy the dip given the broader structure of the entire electoral map right now, where if you look to most of the polls, and if you trust the polls, which I do, I'll tell you that it looks like there's 52 to 53 Republican seats that are coming down the pipeline here. So just flipping one, right, Tester holding on to his seat, it may hurt the odds of Republicans flipping the Senate, but it doesn't eliminate them. And I think that's the trade to fade. I like long Tester here, given what I've seen in the polling in the recent days, but Republicans to still hold on to the Senate because Sherrod Brown likely to lose.
Well, another one of the Senate toss-up seats is Hovde and Baldwin in Wisconsin. How do you handicap that race?
I have a difficult time, again, looking at some of the polls that have come in, seeing Baldwin lose this race. The betting market has her at a 73% favorability here in terms of likely to win. I don't know if that's worth the squeeze, although if you are thinking about this in absolute terms, making 25 cents on a 75-cent investment over the course of a few days, not a bad return on invested capital, Jeff.
That's exactly
So if I would
right.
have called any of these races, do I feel good about I probably feel best about Baldwin being a yes here.
I agree
Honestly.
with
And
you.
then my high
Yeah.
convexity lotto ticket would be long tester.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what will give the Senate to the GOP is the Sherrod Brown's loss in Ohio. I think that's the one seat. You know, they only need 3 seats to take control of the Senate, and I know they're pretty much counting on Montana, Nebraska, and Texas. You know, Cruz looks like he is cruising to a win there overall, Red, and in Nebraska. Nebraska's interesting. You've got Deb Fisher's been around there for a long time, and there's an upstart independent candidate named Osborne that's giving her a little run for the money, but I think in the long run she's going to prevail there. And if Tester ekes out a win in Montana, then that win's going to have to come somewhere else, and I think it's going to be Marino in Ohio that takes out Brown. That will give the GOP the Senate.
Jeff, as we wind down this election day special, and remind everyone, and I think, Jeff, you've been doing a good job reminding everyone here today, that these markets are going to move fast tonight.
Really fast.
Go back to 2022,
Yeah.
heading into the 8 p.m. Eastern hour, betting markets had Republicans holding on to the Senate or winning back the Senate with a 73% chance. Obviously, Democrats are still in control of the Senate to this day. So when we talk about markets moving, they can move very, very quickly depending upon how these poll results turn out. So if you're trading and you have a position that's working for you, as Jeff said, you get to your 93, 95 cents on your dollar, take some profit in the liquidity while you can, and then look to redeploy elsewhere. Jeff, you are the pros pro here. You have the final word on this election day night.
Oh, I would look at the 80 to 90% high probability trades right now. Don't speculate. Don't engage in coin flips. Don't let your political ideology get in the way. Don't bet on who you hope will win. Bet with the probabilities. Do the math. Do the research. There's a lot of I would never use the expression free money, but there's a lot of high probability trades on the table tonight. And one of the things that's so attractive about prediction markets is that they are not that efficient. You have something like we are sitting with an extremely high probability that the race will not be called tonight, but when we started speaking tonight, it was trading at 80 cents. Now it's up in the 90s, you said, but that's still,
Yes.
It's still a 6% return for what appears to be 6 hours. That's not bad if you can make 1% an hour as a trader. I think anybody would take that. So that would be my advice. Don't bet with your heart, bet with your head, and have fun. And it's going to be a fast market. So keep a couple screens open and watch. Probably Decision Desk HQ is probably one of the best live result reporting, and keep of course watch the election special with Chris this evening. I'll be trading, but I'm going to be watching him as well. And then keep Steve Kornacki on somewhere as well, because he is one person that does move the markets as far as prediction market traders go. If he calls a state or if he calls a trend, people pile on.